to invite you to get ready for our session today. I'm going to get just a minute. There are a lot of people that just log on 1 minute after 7, which is always so interesting, right? When you have a start time and you go right up to the last minute. We tend to do that in America quite a bit. Hard to believe we're at our last 3 days already. Already, the time has gone so quickly. Already. So let's get started. Today's theme is not uncommon to a lot of the themes that I do, living from center. But if you've been with me for a while, and if you're new, then this will give a little bit of a reference and an understanding. Been with me for a while, you'll know that each time that this theme comes up in something we're doing, it's a different angle because there are manifold ways to explore what it means and how to live from your center. And I'm not going to take today to explore what is your center, but it might be a nice question for you to take into your day. When you think about your center, what are you talking about? Can you give words to it? Can you find some descriptors? Can you even give a definition of what that means? And can you give a definition of what it means to live from that place? It's very provocative when you think about it. So, my angle today on this very rich topic is the word, the concept, release. And it could have been very easy to just make the theme, the actual theme that's going to go in the subject line that goes out. So if you're practicing this later in the day, you've received either a message or an email with the theme in the subject line. It could have been pretty easy to let release be part of that, since that's our principal focus. But in my take, and as you know, my spirituality is very banquet style. My take, what we are doing is we're saying yes to life. And part of the process of saying yes to life involves release. But release isn't the bigger reality. Release is a part of the reality. And so I liked the idea of letting the focus of living from the center be the theme, release. I'm going to draw upon Lao Tzu and Rumi for this. Rumi, as many know, is a Sufi mystic. Lao Tzu is, we don't even know for sure if this person was really ever a person that lived. There's a lot of legend and story that goes in, and even his name means old master. So some believe that it could be a collection of very potent, insightful sayings from a number of different wise and sage-like individuals. But the story is that this text was written, the Tao Te Ching, and then he simply walked away from his community and walked into the mountains and never returned. And there's even a belief that there is a mountain that he became or he went into. So I think that's kind of a fun story, and I would be a little inclined to think that there was an individual, and maybe his life didn't complete that way, but that there was some individual that became bigger than life. So Rumi has this great quote that says, "Be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop." A tree doesn't really cling to when it's time to let go. Not that we know of, not really. If you look at the analyzing of the tree itself, it doesn't seem that the tree is trying to hold on to those leaves when the leaves start to lose their life. It doesn't really negotiate autumn, and yet how often we will try to negotiate our lives. But it can be helpful to realize that the leaves are not falling because the tree is failing, but rather because the tree is rooted. Isn't that an incredible thought? So when the leaves are falling, do you ever look out at a beautiful autumn scene and when you see leaves fall, I'm sure that there's not emotion that rises in you thinking that the tree is failing somehow, that it failed to hold on to the leaves, that it failed to keep life going in its present form. I bet you simply enjoy the change of the season and the beauty of what's happening and the welcoming in of the letting go that happens all around you. But what I like in that statement that I was reflecting upon is that it's actually happening for a positive reason, that it's happening because the tree is actually rooted. And in being rooted, it's time. So the losing of the leaves is not in spite of things, but is in light of the tree being rooted and therefore aligned. It is aligned, and being aligned, then it has the freedom to let go when it's time to let go. Lao Tzu says, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I may be." Force, which is this kind of illusion of control, holding on to. Uh, when we let go, we don't really lose our life, we gain our life. And Lao Tzu says that force, it actually moves us away from our center. So we may play games in our minds and hearts for years. We may be at a stage where we're unable to let go. But we can begin by recognizing that the way we're holding on to and what we're holding on to is an illusion of being in control of things or being a master. Grasping scatters our energy. Think of a time when you grasped and what happened in your energy then. And holding tight, really, it it creates unnecessary noise in the silence of our being. Releasing, which you this is definitely a paradox. Think of releasing. Think of if your body was releasing sweat to regulate. Releasing actually concentrates life. So even releasing is going out from, it heightens and concentrates our life, meaning that it creates vortices of energy that are more highly attuned to who you are. I remember I probably told some aspect of this story, but it's a great story of release. In 2007, I was my business. I had been in business. I had an LLC that started in 2006, and my business was booming. And I was still straddling church ministry and ministry to people of all backgrounds, and it was really booming. It was all local. It was really lovely, and my meditation classes, because I mainly started teaching meditation 4 times a week, and teaching psycho-spiritual development classes, which were more infrequent. And as I was teaching so much meditation, I would notice that there was this name of this one man that when I go through the roster to sign everybody in, his name would literally light up to me and something in me would stir. It was really phenomenal. And I felt very satisfied with that experience and I didn't get curious to who it was. And this lasted for a while. This lasted for up to 2010. It lasted. That's how lacking in curiosity I was about this man. He would not attend everything I did, but he attended a lot. And he was on my volunteer crew for a big festival that I started. And in 2009, he was part of the volunteer crew, but I didn't meet him personally. And in 2010, he was on my setup, which meant that we would get out there at 5 in the morning. And this was when the festival was still a 1-day festival, not a 3-day festival. And so with that, I had the worst weather you could possibly have on the coast of Florida. It snowed. It snowed the day of my festival. The weather was bad the day before, but I knew that Florida, because of being on the water where we were, it could change like in an hour. So I did not worry about it. I had a feeling things weren't going well, but I didn't worry about it. And I arrived that morning at 5 a.m. to below freezing temperatures. And I had my startup crew of about 10 people there, and they knew what we were in for that day. And I knew I needed to be like a mama giving birth. So while I felt very emotional about the tremendous loss I was walking into, I also had a role. I had a role. My place was not to dissolve into tears. Well, this man was on my startup crew. And when I said hello and gave everybody a hug or shook hands, the name and him connected. And he took my hand and he pulled me into his chest and hugged me. And I just for a moment cried. And that release of energy gave me what I needed to really be present and with joy with whatever was going to happen during the day. And that then was a catalyst for a really powerful spark that ignited into more between us. And it was very overwhelming for both of us. So much so that even though he lived a life where he didn't really believe in marriage, though he was a very committed and faithful person by nature, we even talked about moving in together. We didn't date for very long. We went on just a couple dates. And I realized that the strength of what was happening was because we had had lots of past lives together. And every one of them was gold. We never had a past life where he was my slave or I was his this, or, there were never any power struggles. We were always gold for each other. And many times we were partners that created such lives of joy together. So I realized, because I was writing reams of poetry and having visions and all sorts of things, I realized that what was really happening was all of this. We saw each other again. We were in each other's lives again. We circled back around. Now it became clear after maybe the third date that we weren't meant to be romantic. And I remember weeping because of the loss. There was something about him showing up in my life again that was an unspoken form of support. And it was a big loss, though I was aware that we weren't meant to be partners in that way. And I remember I was at a book club. We were doing Krishna Das's book. And I was sitting there before we were beginning. And I had this visceral expansion that happened. And the expansion was, it it awakened me to the interconnectivity of all of history, past, present, and future, in the way that the divine is telling the story in history. It was very profound. And this remembering and reconnection with him, this man, awakened me to that viscerally. And in that 5 minutes that I was in that space, I became aware. And this question arose within me with such lightness. We've had each other in this way of partnership so many times. Why not do something new this time around? Why not let it be something different? And there was truth there. In that moment, I was a tree with my roots deep in the life force, deep grounded in the earth, open to its life. And the leaves were falling. And it was as though as this fell away, I was like, well, why not have this experience as well? And I was so on board with that everything in me shifted. Everything in me became something different. And nothing in me wrestled with the possibility or the loss or that. I was full on board with the joy of what is it this time? And in that letting go to that degree, that's a level of surrender that you can't will and you can't just do it in your mind. We became such close friends. And even now, even though we don't see each other very often because we live in different states, whenever I am in Florida, we always spend a day and an evening. And I know we've got each other's backs. I know it. And there is a way that him just being alive is a source of consolation in this life that I would never be able to put into words. What is essential does not need clinging. And I tell this story of release because the connection between us was so life-giving. So it's much more subtle, isn't it, than the ways we can be experiencing a certain longing for something that's not in our best interest. Those can be more obvious that letting go would be a really good idea, even if it's hard to let go or we don't understand. But this one could be very confusing, couldn't it? I was given that grace in that 5 minutes before that book club meeting. So clearly. And I saw that him and I being together again was not essential. It was not essential. It was an old role. Will we come back in future lives and be together? Who knows? I bet I bet we're part of the same soul family that will circle around if we have more incarnations. These considerations let us ask more piercing questions because the holidays, because I'm relating this all to the holidays, can touch in on a lot of identities and expectations and roles. But the holidays are a chance to recognize that living from the center is not effortful. It's not rising up into the moment. It is demanding. It takes all of us to live from the center, but it's not effortful. It's the releasing of old roles, the releasing of expectations on ourselves and others, the releasing of old, outgrown identities, the releasing of the narratives that used to provide meaning for us or protect us, but now constrict us. The releasing of cherished self-images that secretly exhaust us. Maybe you're the one that does all the hosting, or maybe you're the one that carries the family. Maybe you're the one that always defers. Maybe there are some outgrown self-images that you didn't know what you didn't know. And they secretly exhaust you. And you have built up ideas of, well, this is me staying the course. This is me doing what's most loving or what's most right. Where can you take this reflection? As we move into the practice, I want to do a different form of heart meditation. And I was going to do breath. I was actually going to do, I know some of you like and I love the pineal gland meditation. And I promise I'll do that before the series is over. But I ended up being more drawn to heart because what we're talking about here in Living from the Center is a very embodied experience. This isn't moving away from the matter part of being. This is moving into it. And when I was sitting with that, inevitably, what comes up for me is incarnation, word made flesh. There's a if you align at all with a Christian energy, this time is around incarnation. It's also around Hanukkah and other things. So I'm not, if you're of another orientation, I'm not meaning to diminish or minimize the breadth of other celebrations, but I am shining a light on one tradition in this moment. Because if you look closely at incarnation, it's of the heart. It's so of the heart. The key to being the embodiment of God, the big key is of the heart. I mean, early on, after the story of Jesus being born, Mary says, and a sword your own, Simeon says to Mary, a sword your own heart will pierce. This is Jesus as a newborn. And her heart must have been so full as a mama. And then what's one of the big prophetic messages she gets when she fulfills her duty as a Jewish woman? A sword your own heart will pierce, so that the secret thoughts of many may be laid bare. Now take that deep into your reflection. What does that mean? And some of the most popular images that come to us of Jesus and Mary through the ages, they're hearts, right? They're sacred beating hearts. They'll have statues, and the one thing that's an internal organ that's supposed to be on the inside is placed on the very outside. They don't place the stomach or the liver or the brain. The heart is placed on the outside because there was such a living with fullness of heart by this feminine and masculine presence in this tradition. So I think part of the opportunity we have in this releasing is to let the heart lead in what's most essential. I have a terrific friend that I consider to be very wise. And I remember years ago, another friend was concerned and said something about this friend of mine that I consider to be so wise. And this friend that was concerned was very much in her head. Well, maybe this needs to happen. I'm worried about this, because this person was going through a lot of changes. And I said to her, I said, I don't want to give any names. I said, this friend of mine, the heart is her mystery school. She's not leading with the heart is leading her. The heart is where she's learning. The heart is where she's evolving. And that path is messy. It's not clean, clear lines, but it is clear guidance because the heart has the capacity to immediately root us in what's essential and gives us the capacity to hold all. So today's practice is going to be a heart practice for that reason. All right, so I invite you to close your eyes. Sorry, my talk went very long today. I did well in the other ones, but that story felt important to share. It came up in my heart. Bring your focus to your heart. As you focus on the heart, to sense or imagine or become aware that this heart is a sphere of brilliant light. I'm going to be using the breath here, but I want you to focus on the subtle energy here. Could be the physical heart that's a little to the left, could bring it into the heart chakra awareness. Become aware of this being this large pulsing light that is you. And see how much you can drop in. Now, to help you stay rooted in this heart space, I'm going to invite you to inhale and exhale, but let's focus just on this region of the chest. So, as the lungs are expanding and contracting with the inhale and the exhale, yes, we're going to do chest breathing, which I know is not considered the best way to breathe, but we want to focus the energy on this heart space. We want to release what the heart is holding that is no longer alive. So releasing is not absence, but is the practice of allowing fullness. So we're going to focus on the inhale and the exhale with some timed breathing to amplify the energy of the heart and to be aware of anything that arises within the heart that is looking to be released. So after the next exhale, hold the breath out and pause. And then inhale fully and hold the breath. And exhale. And now we're going to count. But when we count, we're going to focus on the heart and the heart chakra. And with every inhale and exhale, Either awaken to or imagine that the light of this heart space is growing brighter, and in it, release of what no longer serves you is happening, known and unknown. Okay, inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. Continue counting internally. And as you continue to count internally without me, let my words serve what your heart is longing to hear. Your heart is so tender. Your heart has an unspoken strength of resounding resilience, an ability to be both vulnerable to anything that happens and at the same time being strong enough that you are not in the end destroyed. Your heart is a witness to the untouched soul that is here having its experience. And your heart calls you to freedom. Your heart calls you to freedom. If your heart were to speak to you, it would call you to remind you that all that you long for is right here. that anything that takes you away from this center is not worthy of you, that you can trust your heart. Continue the internal breathing cycle without me as we move into silence. And after the next exhale, release the focus. Take your left hand and place it in your heart center. And place the right hand over it. And before we bring this practice to a close, make a commitment in your own words to your heart. Be faithful to your heart. Stop abandoning your heart. And now open the hands out in a gesture of openness to life. When you're ready, open your eyes. Blessings, my friends. Have a wonderful day.